Good morning, students. Last time we began with the dying detective, and I already completed page number 112 and 113. So when I was doing 113, you had seen how Sherlock Holmes had taken the keys when Dr. Watson was trying to go out to fetch Dr. Ainstree. He didn't allow him to go out, and he took the keys. He was kept inside the room, and he told Dr. Watson that he had to stay over there till 6 o'clock. So this is what had happened. This is where I stopped last time, my class, right? So let us continue from the next part. At 6, Watson, we resume our conversation. So we'll get back to the conversation at 6. This is what he says. Sherlock Holmes tells Dr. Watson. So you see on right hand side you have 2 questions. Let me give the answers of these 2 questions. You please make a note of these questions in your notebook. Okay. The first question is, why did Watson want Holmes to be treated by Dr. Ainstree? The answer is, Dr. Watson wanted his friend, Holmes to be treated by Dr. Ainstree because he was the greatest living doctor for tropical diseases. Then the next question is, why did Holmes lock the door? The answer is, Holmes locked the door because he did not want Watson to go fetch Dr. Ainstree. These are the answers to these questions. Let us move to the next page, page 114. All of you please concentrate on this page. Keep this book open in front of you and look in your book as I am doing it. Unable to settle down, I walked slowly around the room, examining the pictures of celebrated criminals with which every wall was adorned. Finally, I came to the mantelpiece. In the midst of a jumble of objects was a small black and white ivory box with a sliding lid. I stretched out my hand to examine it more closely. So, unable to settle down. Who was unable to settle down? Dr. Watson. Watson was unable to settle down. He wanted to leave the room. He wanted to go to Dr. Ainstree, to fetch Dr. Ainstree to treat Sherlock Holmes. But this he didn't allow. Holmes didn't allow him to go out of the room. So he was locked inside. So what to do next? He was helpless. Dr. Watson was helpless. That is why he was not able to settle down. So he kept on walking around the room. Nothing else to do, isn't it? So he kept on walking around the room. He was going through the pictures which were hanging, okay, of celebrated criminals. Most wanted or famous criminals were those pictures, the portraits of the criminals, okay, most famous criminals were were hanging on the walls of Sherlock Holmes. So this, he was going through the pictures. You can see it in the text itself, page 114. You can see in the picture it's shown, with which every wall was adorned. So every wall was decorated with the pictures of criminals over here. So I came to the mantelpiece. Then he walked and he reached to the mantelpiece. So it's a place just above the fireplace. Mantelpiece is a place just above the fireplace. Okay, so that is what it is called as. You can see in the picture, mantelpiece. Okay, mantelpiece. So above the fireplace. In the midst of a jumble of objects was a small box and white ivory box with a sliding slit. So there was many things jumbled up. Many things were here and there on top of this, on top of the fireplace, that is on the mantelpiece. There were many things. Okay, and that is why jumbled of objects. So many things were lying here and there. So in between those things, there was a small black and white ivory box, a box which was made of ivory, fine, with a sliding lid. Its lid was a bit sliding. Okay, I stretched out my hand to examine it more closely. So ivory box, black and white box with a sliding lid. So he just wanted to see that. So he just stretched his hand to lift it from there to see it more closer, right? So it was a dreadful cry that he gave. Put it down, down this instant, Watson. His head sank back upon the pillow and he gave a deep sigh of relief as I kept the box back upon the mantelpiece. So it was a dreadful cry. Who cried from back? Sherlock Holmes. He cried out. What did he say? Put it down. Okay, this is what he said. Put it down. He asked Dr. Watson to put the box back. He didn't want Dr. Watson to pick the box, and he never wanted him to go through that, look in the box, open the box. That is why he asked him to put the box down. This instant, at this very moment, please put it back. That is what he ordered him. His head sank back upon the pillow. Then he had put his head. He was lying down from the bed. He got up, he raised, and he spoke like this, and he went back to the pillow. He gave a deep sigh of relief as I kept the box back upon the mantelpiece. And when Dr. Watson, when he placed this box back on the mantelpiece, he gave a sigh of relief. He was relaxed. Okay. Who was relaxed? Sherlock Holmes. Thank you. That is excellent. Now you will have the kindness to place some letters and papers upon this table within my reach. There is a sugar tongue over there. Kindly raise that small ivory box with its assistance. Place it here among the papers. You can now go and fetch Mr. Culverton Smith of 13 Lower Burke Street. So this is what he said. Okay, Sherlock Holmes thanked him, Dr. Watson. For what? Because he kept that ivory box back to the place, back to the mantelpiece. So he said, thank you. That is excellent. Well done. Excellent. This is what he appreciated. This is how he appreciated who? Sherlock Holmes. Now you will have the kindness to place some letters. And then he asked Dr. Watson to place some letters and papers upon the table. To keep some letters and papers on the table wherein he could reach easily. Who could reach easily? Sherlock Holmes. He could reach easily. So this is what he asked him to keep the letters and papers upon the table wherein he could reach them easily. There is a sugar tongue over there. Then he is pointing out to the sugar tongue, and he told him, here there is a sugar tongue over there. He's pointing out to it. Get that also. Kindly raise that small ivory box with its assistance. So you have to raise that ivory box with the help of that sugar tongue. Okay, with which you pick sugar blocks. Okay, so that with that you raise that ivory box. This is what he tells them. Place it here among the papers. So place that ivory box also among these papers over here. Place it over here. Then he's asking him, go. You can now go and fetch. Then he's asking him, now you can go, after doing all these things, he's asking Dr. Watson, now you can go and fetch Mr. Culverton Smith. One Mr. Culverton Smith is saying, you go and get Mr. Culverton Smith, and the address is being told by Sherlock Holmes to Dr. Watson. The address is 13 Lower Burke Street. So this is the address given by him. I have never heard the name, said I. So Dr. Watson said, I don't know who this Culverton Smith is. I have never heard such a name at all. This is what Dr. Watson said. Watson, it may surprise you to know that the man who is best versed in this disease is not a medical man, but a planter. Mr. Smith is a well-known resident of Sumatra, now visiting London. If you could persuade him to come here and give us the benefit of his unique experience of this disease, the investigation of which has been his dearest hobby, I cannot doubt that he could help me. There is no good feeling between us. His nephew Watson, the boy died in a horrible way. I had suspicions of foul play, and I allowed him to see it. He has a grudge against me. You will soften him, Watson. So this is what he's telling Watson. Watson, it may surprise you. So it is going to be a surprise for you. This is really going to give you a surprise. What is really going to give Watson a surprise? Let us see what it is. You know, to know that the man who is best versed, the person who is much more knowledgeable, who is much more skilled in what? In treating this disease. In this disease is not a medical man, is not at all, no ways, not a doctor. A doctor is not well versed in treating this disease, okay, of which I am suffering. Who is suffering? Sherlock Holmes. This is what he says. So he says, the person who is best to treat this disease is none other than Culverton Smith. So he's asking him to get Culverton Smith. So this is what he says. So he says, it's not a medical man, it's not a doctor who can treat me, whereas a planter. Now who's a planter? The one who's having plantation is called as a planter, one who does plantation. Now you will wonder what a planter has to do with the disease. How can he treat? So that is what he's asking him, Watson. He's asking Dr. Watson to get Culverton Smith, who's a planter. Okay. Maybe he's an owner of the plantation, or maybe he's a manager of the plantation. Okay. Anyways, he's a planter. So this is what he says. So Mr. Smith is a well-known resident of Sumatra, and you know, he's a well-known resident of Sumatra. He's a famous resident of Sumatra. This is what he tells him. Now visiting London, and presently he is visiting London. So get him to my place. I want to meet him. This is what he tells him. If you could persuade him to come here and give us the benefit of his unique experience of this disease, the investigation of which has been his dearest hobby. So for that, you have to persuade him in the sense, you have to convince him. If it is possible, you just convince him to come here and give us the benefit. Okay. And from him, I am going to be benefited. What benefit he is going to give? So that is what he's saying. He's having a unique experience of this disease. Okay. Only he is having that unique experience. So only one of the kind. Okay. So only one person who's having a different experience of the disease and who can go through it. That is what he's saying over here. So he says, the investigation of which has been his dearest hobby, and the investigation of this disease is his dearest hobby. Who is Culverton Smith's? Smith's dearest hobby is the investigation of the disease, okay, which he is suffering from. Sherlock Holmes is suffering from. This is what he says. I cannot doubt that he could help me, and I cannot doubt it, he says, that he could help me in this. So why he is doubting? He is saying there is no good feeling between us, so our bonding is not so good. That is what he says. So he is saying that we are not in good terms. Now why they are not in good terms? This is what he says. There is no good feeling between us. His nephew Watson, the boy died in a horrible way. You know, his nephew. Whose nephew? Culverton Smith's nephew. Nephew died in a bad way. This is what he says. I had suspicions of foul play. So he's saying, I really doubt of something had happened. It is an unfair thing what had happened, or maybe a murder which took place. Okay, murder behind his death. Whose death? Culverton Smith's nephew's death. That is what he says. And I allowed him to see it. But still I allowed him to see it. He has a grudge against me. So he just disliked me. He don't like me because of it. You will soften him, Watson. So you do one thing. You just go to him and soften him. Soften him in the sense you persuade him, convince him. Okay. So that is what he's asking him to do. I will bring him in a cab if I have to carry him down to it. So this is what he's saying. If I have to get him over here, then I will get him in a cab. A cab in the sense a car. Okay. So that is what he's saying. So here it can be a horse-drawn carriage. Okay. So that is what he's saying over here. So I will get him in a cab. So if I have to carry him down to it, so if I have to carry him to this place, then definitely I will get him in a cab. Who says this? Dr. Watson. So on hearing this, let us see how Sherlock Holmes react on this. Sherlock Holmes says, you will do no such thing. You will persuade him to come and then return before him. Make any excuse so as to not come with him. Don't forget, Watson, don't fail me. He lay back upon the bed, murmuring in a confused way about oceans and fishes. I left him babbling like a child and descended down the steps of the house. As I stood whistling for a cab, a man came to me through the fog. So you can say, you will do no such thing. So this is what he said. So you can see the detective is already dying over here. The dying detective, that is Sherlock Holmes, is telling Dr. Watson, you will do no such thing. You are not going to do such thing. What such thing? You are not going to get him along with you in a cab. In fact, he's asking him to persuade him, to convince Smith to come, and then Dr. Watson had to return before Smith. Okay, this is what he tells. These are the instructions given by the dying detective, by Holmes. He is giving this instruction to Dr. Watson. You have to convince the man, you have to convince Mr. Smith, and you have to leave the place before Smith. This is what he tells him. So make any excuse so as to not come with him. So you have to give some sort of excuse so that you are not going to come with Mr. Smith. Don't forget, Watson, don't fail me. And he is asking him, see, don't forget what I am telling you. So take my instructions very carefully and do follow my instructions. Don't disappoint me by doing it wrongly. Okay, so do as I am telling you. He lay back upon the bed, murmuring in a confused way about oceans and fishes. And then again he went on his murmuring attitude. Okay, who? The dying detective, Sherlock Holmes. He went on murmuring. He was speaking all things which were strange, very much strange at that point. He was speaking about oceans. He was speaking about fishes. He was just murmuring. You know, when one is sick, when one is having fever, right? So normally when one is suffering from fever, high temperature, high fever, isn't it? So the person's attitude will be somewhat like this, isn't it? Out of the way they will be speaking, without any connection they will be speaking. They will be speaking strange things, like how the dying detective is doing over here, right? So he too was speaking about strange things like oceans. He was speaking, fishes he was speaking, which had no connection, no connectivity at all with what he was discussing, with what he was talking with Dr. Watson. Okay, so without any connectivity he was speaking, without any connection he was speaking all strange things over here, lying on his bed. He was still lying on the bed, that we know, right? So I left him babbling. So who left him? Dr. Watson left him. Dr. Watson is saying, I left him babbling, speaking in a senseless way, without connections, in a strange manner. Okay, meaningless. Okay, so in that manner he left him like a child. He was going on murmuring. That is, Sherlock Holmes was going on murmuring, and descended down the steps and went down the steps. Who went down? Dr. Watson went down the steps of the house. Came down the steps. As I stood whistling for a cab, he was standing outside, he was whistling for a cab. He was waiting there for a cab. A man came to me through the fog. Who came to Dr. Watson? A man. He came from the fog. So it was foggy outside. You can see the atmosphere from the fog. He could see a man coming towards him. So this man came very close to Dr. Watson. So there is one more question given over here. Do you think Holmes was friendly with Mr. Smith? Give reasons for your answer. So please make a note of this. Take down. No, Sherlock was not friendly with Mr. Smith because Mr. Smith held a grudge against Holmes for having raised suspicions of foul play against him in the death of his nephew. So Mr. Smith held a grudge against Holmes for having raised suspicions of foul play against him in the death of his nephew. Fine. So that is the answer to this question. So let us move to the next page of the lesson. How is Mr. Holmes, sir? He asked. It was an old acquaintance, Inspector Morton of Scotland Yard. So who was this man who came through the fog? He was an old friend of Mr. Holmes. What was his name? Inspector Morton. Inspector Morton of Scotland Yard. He was the man who came over there when Dr. Watson was waiting for the cab. So today I'll wind up the lesson up to here.